Great stuff. So just for the interest of time, John, we'll move on to our second talking point. And this actually interprets a lot of what we've already discussed around the key. We've kind of explored the issue. Why is sales qualification harder? Well, the reality is it's not. As you mentioned, John, it's about having the right domain, doing the right research, understanding trigger events in order to have those conversations with your prospect clients, right? So I guess in terms of the second point, we want to look at what sales professionals can do to conduct more effective discoveries. We're also going to run our second poll as well. So let's get that started in 3, 2, 1. Bear with me, everyone. There it is. Launching. Right. What is the current state of your mid-level sales pipeline? Everyone, please be interactive. Let us know. It is a bit of a vague question in some ways, but there is a reason behind that. There is a method to the madness. So go ahead, make it interactive. So John, we've mentioned a number of things that salespeople and leaders can do. Do your homework. Yes, people need to do their homework and understand the competitive environment. Very basic stuff before they go and start. It does not give you the permission to talk about your product until you're way down the sales funnel. But more importantly, at the very start, you've got to understand. You've got to make it about them and understand exactly who you're talking to, the industry that they're playing in. Salespeople and teams need to be an expert in their own domain, right? A sponge for knowledge and understand all aspects of the company, understand their language and what are the top line issues. And other than the basic stuff, we could say it's sales 101, but maybe it's not, John. But what I'm seeing is doing the research and understanding the competitive environments, using the right tools. There's a tool called Trigger. You mentioned Trigger Events. I use a tool called Trigger, which is owned by a chap by the name of Thomas Moyne, a fantastic company that tells me what's happening. There's a massive sales transformation going right now. There's so many companies hiring SDRs. It's a massively competitive playing field right now. Not just SDRs, salespeople. It's huge, and people are moving around more than ever before. So is there anything else, John, that I guess you can suggest to salespeople, well, maybe perhaps when it comes to the research side and understanding, is there anything you can suggest when they're hitting that roadblock? Hey, we don't want to disclose our pains to you because we don't trust you yet. What are people missing? How do they build that trust? Is it more of a timing issue, or is it more of they haven't spent enough time understanding that customer in their domain? I know we've covered some of that.
It's interesting. I know you're in the prospecting business and pick up the phone and call people and so on and so forth. This is hard to do when you're doing transactional type B2B selling. But
agreed.
It's really important that work is done up front before you pick up that phone, because those first few words out of your mouth are going to create immediately, if you do have the right words, are going to create intrigue, some level of trust. This guy knows what he's talking about, right? This girl knows what she's talking about. Shit, I've just better listen for a second and maybe I'll answer a couple of questions. You get that level of engagement happening very early. And if you hit the button, you're right. But the other important thing is, and I just can't understand why salespeople aren't doing this enough, is you need to build a personal brand. Your customers, if you're approaching a customer and you do get some level of intrigue, they're going to check you out. And what do they see when you check it out? Top salesperson in XYZ company, or I made quota in every year, and that's not the brand you want. The brand you want is a brand that says this guy, this girl is absolutely somebody I need to talk to. They have expertise in my domain. And so, again, in the book, Sue, the heroine, has got this brand out there. She's been talking at conferences. She's been writing articles on cybersecurity and banks and what some of the challenges are and so on. And so her target market is starting to see her. So when she actually does that approach, oh, you're Sue. Wow, maybe I'll just better listen for a second. You need to think about putting yourself in the customer's shoes, and when they first get a contact from you, a phone call particularly, but also emails or whatever, They see that you've got domain expertise. They see that you've written very, very good, insightful articles, or you've done a couple of videos, or you've spoken at conferences. And okay, you as a salesperson must be a consultant. And you think about the best consultants out there, they have absolute expertise in the customer's domain. And they only need to ask 1 or 2 questions. The customer says, wow, this conversation is going to be valuable, yeah, based on the questions I've got. So, and it's not the typical manipulative or discovery type, qualification type questions too many of us ask too early in the process.
I have to agree, John. I love your passion, by the way, John. You're very passionate about this subject. It's getting me thinking, actually. And I have to admit, some of the things I was taught in my early sales career: be a consultant, build a personal brand. Becoming a subject matter expert is something that I've only learned probably in the last few years, where you gain that trust from a client, not just to do one project. They want you to become that subject matter expert, so you grow together with that company. That is how you get more work out of that organization. They don't bump off to one of my competitors, right? And it is quite challenging depending what industry you're in, and it comes with experience and a whole bunch of other things. So absolutely, John, I have to agree. And relating to my own experience, when I first started my organization, I started chasing rabbits, and as opposed to you don't want to chase the elephants because they take forever to close, right? But certainly, the first thing I would do is just vomit on my prospects, because I've just started a business, and the first thing I need to do is get money through the door. And it's the same if you're a salesperson and you just started a new role, or your KPIs have doubled. But that's irrelevant. That doesn't make you a good salesperson when you talk product straight away and push that and vomit down your prospects. On your prospects, it doesn't work that way. So I have to agree, John. I'm very
let me emphasize the point a little bit.
Sure.
By the way, you could change your domain expertise from one industry to another. Right? It's amazing how quickly you can build domain expertise. Let me give you an example, and this happens to be me, but when I started selling, I was selling accounting systems back in the 1970s. And therefore I got to know accounting really well. I've never done accounting in university or anything else, but I got to know accounting and what business accounting is all about and what they're trying to get out of the accounting. And so I was able to have those conversations. And then the company in their wisdom said, oh, we want you to sell manufacturing solutions now. Now, this is back in the early 80s. So what do I know about manufacturing? So there was a couple of customers we had that were using our manufacturing software. So I said, look, I want to come out and spend some time. I actually spent 2 weeks going through 3 or 4 factories, talking to all the factory managers, really understanding the challenges and issues they face and so on and so forth. And then I did a video-based training course from a guy, but those that sold manufacturing would know Ollie White. Did an Ollie White manufacturing training course, and all about closed loop manufacturing, later on just-in-time manufacturing. I was a domain expert. I could walk into a factory, do the tour with the factory manager, ask all the right questions, and I knew it all better than they did, because they'd never actually. I've got all the experience of all these other customers we've got, and the training I've done, etc., and I could be the expert. Then, in all their wisdom, the company I was with said, now we're going to move you into the banking and finance arena. I said, whoa, I'm a manufacturing expert. I tell you, within 6 months, I was a banking and finance expert, right? And so you can do it. That's the point I want to make. Yeah, you've got to build domain expertise. I think that's your number 1 requirement. Number 2 is maybe learn the product, or maybe 3 or 4 is learning the product. There's other things you need to do. Obviously, you need to learn how to sell, learn how to have a conversation, learn how to ask questions in the right sort of way, understand how to go through a discovery, which is where all the selling occurs, and never talking about your product. And everybody says, hang on, if that's where all the selling occurs and you're not talking about your product, you're not selling a product. Yes, you are. The discovery is all about getting the right foundation in place to be able to ultimately put a proposal on the table, but not without being manipulative at all. The other thing you've got to learn to do is how to disrupt the customer's thinking in a positive, constructive way. Now, you've heard about the challenger sale. That is to some extent a disruptive process, disrupting thinking. But I use that word disruptive a lot. As salespeople, we have to know how to disrupt the customer's thinking, where the customer sits back and says, wow, that's highly valuable.
But John,
And
that's
any
brilliant.
sorry, Matt, the last point, any
Go for it.
customer worth their salt that's a customer we want to do business with wants to have their thinking disruptive. They want to think outside the 9 dots to work out how to address the challenges and opportunities they've got in the most valuable way.
Great stuff, John. And just recapping that, so the 3 things salespeople can do, and tips for any salespeople learning on the call, and sales leaders rather: build your domain, understand the product discovery, never talk about your products. All right, there's a certain point that you can do that, but we'll bring that up later on in our final point. And disrupt the customer's thinking in a positive way. Disruption is a word that may be seen in many different lights, but you've got to be able to disrupt the customer's thinking in a positive way, so that they see value in what you do, right? In the conversation, not what you're selling, right? Not what you're pitching. So, John, let's go to the chat. We've had a few points while we've been nattering on. So Dennis makes a valid point around voice.
I thought he would. G'day, Denny. G'day, Danae. How are you?
Danae, sorry, not Dennis. My apologies. And I think with voice, it's 90% tonality and whatever they say, 10% what you actually say. I think it's probably not 100% correct. But yeah, no, I do agree. Jackie agrees with that. LinkedIn profile. So there's big emphasis on LinkedIn profile. So your LinkedIn is not a CV. Where Gunnar's mentioned this, and I know he's an expert on LinkedIn. Gunnar, he spent a long time understanding this. So where we brag about our overachievements and president clubs, we should show whom we helped solving and what challenge to achieve with what outcome. Now, I agree with you, Gunnar. Yeah, I've done a couple of courses recently on how you should position and show your LinkedIn profile. And a lot of people reach out to me, and I certainly used to do this when I say, hey, we have a joint connection. We have a connection in the same network. And the reality is, so what? That's not enough value to have a conversation, right? So that's very good. Tony, just mention your point. Some mid-level pipeline is slower than usual due to COVID uncertainty. Agreed. Yep. I'm certainly having the same issue. Always working on ways to keep that rolling in the right direction. So if we look at the poll, just based on Tony's response, we're seeing that it's a mixed bag. So lots of quality pipeline that is progressing. That's good. So there's a lot of stuff happening. Pipeline is not progressing to close. Not enough mid-level pipeline seems to be the biggest challenge right now, in line with lots of quality pipeline. So it's a very mixed bag. I don't really know how to articulate that, John, other than I think that people are doing really well and other people are not doing so well. I think it's I don't know if you want to add to that. And in terms of, I just see a lot of people doing better than they were doing in COVID. And certainly for me, when we weren't in lockdown in Australia, I'm doing much better than I was prior to COVID. But no, that's interesting. And Gunnar's mentioned a sales rep's domain expertise can't be visible when they change their company every 15 to 18 months. Okay, interesting. All right. Okay, good stuff. Anything you want to add to that, John?
I don't think so. The pipeline is a very interesting subject and full of all sorts of scientific theories and so on.
Yeah.
It's important to have the right opportunities that will come to fruition in your pipeline. And I'm a great believer. You need 1.1 or one times what you need out the end in your pipeline, because if you close them all, then you're getting your quota. So it's getting the right deals, not more deals in your pipeline. If you haven't got enough in the mid-level of your pipeline, is it not enough of the right deals, or is it just not enough of the numbers you think you're going to need? And I've worked with a lot of organizations where you go in and you look at the pipeline. I've got a pipeline issue where we're not getting enough in the top for a start. We've got to improve the way we prospect, and then they're stalling in the middle. So we haven't got enough. We've got to put more in the middle. And when we really look at it very carefully, they actually need less in the pipeline. They just need to sell more effectively.
I have to agree 100%, John. All right, so let's move on to our final talking point. We're going to start another